I think, as everyone said, we both feel like we've achieved a great deal and at the same time only scratched the surface, unearthed some fragments of what might be done in telling a history of television for women in Britain. And so at this point, when we're about to finish the project, it's an appropriate moment for us to reflect on what we haven't managed to do, what future directions there might be. And I think I speak for all of us when I say I think we've all got plans to do more research in this area and to continue. The first thing I want to go back to then is something that Hazel mentioned when she was talking about the audience research she did, and that's the question of race and the fact that despite all the efforts that we made, our sample was entirely white. And we decided to work with that sample as it had selected itself. But I think that we all feel that while Hazel's fantastic data has generated very interesting stuff around the intersection of gender and generation, there are stories to be told about the intersection of gender, generation and ethnicity in the ways in which women in Britain have understood television as speaking to them. And I think that's definitely a future direction for research. Helen spoke about how in this enormous period that we chose, 47 to 89, we were necessarily selective. We chose to look at key genres, we chose to look at key scheduling slots, and so we looked at magazine programming, sitcom, arts programming, and so on. And we always knew that there would be enormous holes in the history that we told, and those holes are still there and remain to be filled. But I just wanted to draw attention to, I'm sure everybody here is very aware of the BBC centricity of accounts of British television history, which results, I think, largely from the fantastic resource of the BBC's Written Archive Centre at Caversham and the lack of a similar resource, consistent resource for ITV Channel 4. I think we think that our project has developed similarly. For example, maybe Lucy would have something to say about this, but for example, we haven't looked at the specific feminist address to women of early Channel 4 programming, both daytime and primetime programming. That's a significant area, for example. And one of the things that I want to do in my next research is to think about this very particular ways in which ITV were thinking about the female audience right at the beginning of the independent television service in 1955. I mean, this is from the TV Times in 55, this editorial basically arguing that the period where the BBC had always addressed women, which was the afternoon slot, was not the best time to speak to women on television because they were very busy at that time, and that actually the morning was more important for women. And you see that kind of developing as you look across the history of ITV. And then by 1967, the editor of The Economist is saying television has changed working class women's lives and will continue to do so. So I think there are really interesting questions about how ITV has addressed the female audience that I really want to look at, and I'm going to start by looking at the development of the afternoon drama slot in the 1970s and 80s. Just go back here. We held an international conference in May 2013 at Warwick, which showed us that feminist research on women's television is very securely on the map around the world, and in particular geopolitical context is a very highly charged issue, enabled us to make a number of really valuable connections with scholars working elsewhere in the world that we hope will continue. And as a last point, moving forward, one of the things we've been able to do in this project is to begin conversations with women working in television production in the present, in the past, notably through the Women in Film and Television Network, headed by Kate Kinnemont, who's now Kate Kinnemont MBE, as well as talking to the curators and archivists of television that we've spoken to across the history of the project. And I think that kind of commitment to a feminist historiography has been kind of enhanced really in the process of doing this project, and what we hope to do is to keep that clearly in view and still on the agenda of research, having kind of hopefully troubled some of the canons. Have I missed anything? No? Okay, thank you.